Good morning, everyone. Maybe we'll start. So first, thank you very much, everyone, for coming out this morning. This is my 15th year that I've had this job at Mike Carleton, and it's the first time we've done this. Somebody suggested they thought it would be a good idea in the spirit of communicating things that were going on within the finance and admin group. So you can let me know at the end whether you think it was worth your hour or not to spend it here. Roughly the format this morning is I'm going to talk for about 20-25 minutes about stuff that's going on in finance and admin that's important to me. Then we're going to have a presentation from the National Quality Institute that will take about 10 minutes, and then we'll have a question and answer period. So if you have any questions about the presentation or things that are going on at Carleton that you think I might know the answer to, keep them in your mind for the end of the session, okay, and I'll try and answer them. So my part of the presentation, so I'm going to divide it into three parts, actually, my 20 minutes of talking. The first part I'm going to talk about what I see as being my job at Carleton, which is roughly, I would divide into three buckets. One is acting as the Chief Financial Officer. The second is functioning as a member of the senior administration. And the third, where we're going to spend most of the time talking today, is about my role as the leader of the finance and admin group. Okay, so those are the three buckets I'm going to talk in. We're a very diverse group within finance and admin. We do a miraculous variety of different stuff at the university in supporting the university's academic enterprise. When I got this job 15 years ago, we spent a lot of time trying to think about, so very much 15 years ago, everybody functioned in their own silos. The people in buildings and grounds, as it was called at the time. The leadership of that group probably rarely ever talked to the leadership of the finance group or the athletics group. It was very much we functioned in silos. Probably it's not perfect today what we're doing. I think what we're doing today is a lot better than what we did then. But one of the things I would encourage you all to do today is if there's somebody who's here today that you don't know, go over and say hello to them, introduce yourselves, right? Trying to get to know each other, because one of the things for us to be successful in supporting the university, it's clear that we all have to work together, right? So I would encourage you to do that, and I'm sure there's actually people in the room that I'm actually having trouble putting a name to, so I'm sure you're having the same experience. So my first bucket, my role as the Chief Financial Officer. I get a lot of help from people who work in finance and institutional and research. And we're also very lucky that we have a very good finance and audit committee of the Board of Governors. There are some internal, but it's actually the external people that for me add a lot of value, who help us steer the financial affairs of the university. I would characterize our financial affairs as being okay, probably better than most Ontario universities. If you follow, and I'm sure most of you don't, but if you have a chance to talk to your colleagues at other universities, there's many universities that have gone through 2, 3, 4% annual budget cuts for the last 5 years. We have not had that experience. We've actually had budget reductions of about 1% per year for this year and last year, which has been fairly modest in the context of our activity. And in fact, most of the money that we've actually reduced, we've actually reinvested in new initiatives. So I would characterize our health as being fine. The big issues that we're faced with today, one is we're going to have a provincial election next fall. The province of Ontario is very financially challenged. Province of Ontario has a $240 billion operating deficit. The province of Ontario is spending nearly $10 billion a year on interest payments servicing that debt. You know, if you follow in the media all the kerfuffle that went on in California last year about their debt levels and the challenges in California, well, the Ontario debt level per capita is like 11 times higher per person than it is in California. So we're going to have a provincial election next fall. Either the Liberals or Conservatives will be elected. I think that's a safe bet. They both said that education and health are going to be priorities for them, but there has to be some belt tightening go on in the province of Ontario, and because they are in many ways can control the financial health of the university. You know, what happens post-election is critical to us, and it's a big unknown for us today. The second big risk we have, the one that we're closer to managing at home, is our pension plan. Not a lot has changed. We're going to file a valuation that we submitted to the province yesterday, I think, as of July 1st, 2010. What that valuation indicates is there's like a $160 million shortfall in our pension plan. Our pension plan today has assets of $750 million, and for it to be considered fully funded, it should have another $160 million in it. So there's going to have to be more money put into that plan. Now, our plan hasn't changed. It's changed in minor detail many times over the years. But what's caused this deficit is two things. One is long-term interest rates persisting to be at all-time low historic levels. And so when you do valuations, that has a major impact on assessing whether there's enough money in the plan. One, and two, the fact that there's been two stock market crashes in the 2000s. There was the high-tech crash in 2001-2, and then there was the financial market meltdown in the fall of 2008. Both those cases, our plan lost like 20% of its value, and those are big things to come back from, and particularly that we've had two within a 8-year span. So it's those two stock market crashes and the long-term interest rates, which still haven't recovered, is what's causing the major challenge in the pension plan. It's not so much the design of the plan. And our third challenge is undergraduate enrollment. Our financial health is determined by the number of undergraduate students that are here. Part of the reason my earlier comments that I would characterize our health as generally being okay is the fact that we, over the last decade, have had slow, consistent, well-managed growth in our undergraduate student enterprise. We had the bump of the double cohort, but setting that aside, we've had 2 to 3% growth in our first-year student body. We've been able to improve the number of undergraduate students that are successful at the university, and so that's what's driven our financial health. It's not so much our shrewd planning or creative thinking, but that's the bottom line. But as we look at our enrollment next fall, it's a little early to tell. Tomorrow is the last date that Ontario high school students have to confirm if they're going to accept an offer from a university, so we'll have much better data next week. But our application data has looked fairly soft, sort of was tracking, last I saw it, probably at about a 3% decline, but we'll know better information next week, so that's a concern. On the positive side of that, I know there are many people, some in this room, mainly in student services and in the teaching faculties. They're on the phone and trying to encourage students to accept their offer from Carleton. So there's lots of good things going on to try and turn that around. This is a bit of a busy overhead. Before I turn to that, though, I'm going to do something that you may all actually think is a bit hokey, but could I ask everybody in the room to stand up? And shut your eyes. Lift your right arm up and shut your eyes. I see some eyes open. Now I'd like you to point north. Okay. Now I'd like you to open your eyes. Look around the room. You can sit down. So you can see everybody's pointing in different directions. Well, not everybody, many people are in different directions. We're directionally challenged. What we were trying to do in the planning within finance and admin is actually to get us all working together towards a common goal. That's our objective. We've been fussing around with this for about a decade, trying to find common things that all of the different units in finance and admin could work on together. So at the top of this rather busy chart is a vision statement. This was developed 10 years ago. Talks about what do we aspire to be? How would we like to see finance and admin? How would we like to see people to think about us in the future? So this was created 10 years ago, so it's kind of like how we'd like people to think about us today. Talks about us providing excellent, responsive, helpful customer service, being innovative in how we go about delivering those services. At the bottom is the mission, which we see as the purpose of all of us in finance and admin. It takes like 3 or 4 lines to say that we support the academic enterprise, and we try to do that in a thoughtful and a quality way. The stuff in the middle are the 4 quadrants of our balanced scorecard, our approach to planning of trying to get us to work together, what we're doing around customer service, stewardship of resources, the way we work, and our employees, which are you, and which is actually the cornerstone for all of the things above that working. So this is the framework we've been working with for about 10 years. We're going to review it this year. We're going to have a consultation with everyone in finance and admin will have an opportunity to comment on this year. If you actually feel like before you get a call to comment you would like to do it, call Cindy or I and we'd be glad to. But we're going to go through a formal process this year of reviewing this roadmap that we've developed. I'm going to talk about this fairly quickly. It's, from my perspective, key things first that we've accomplished in 2010 in the Finance and Admin Group. And then I'm going to move on and talk about things that I think are key objectives for 2011 and 12. I know there are a lot of wonderful things that are going on in finance and admin that are not on this 4 overheads we're going to look at, but I'll just talk about them. The first is through the pension committee. We have made changes to our pension plan over the last year. This is essential for our financial health that this happened, and I've already talked about why that is. Financial stability, I think both our ancillary units, which need to generate enough revenue to cover their costs, and the operating budget, we're in a stable financial condition. We spend a lot of time focusing on both ancillary and operating units, but that's very good news for the university. As you all know, we spend a lot of time tracking what customers think about services we're providing. We have had some successes. One of the big changes this year was how the campus perception of personal safety. Historically, our students and staff have always thought as Carleton being a safer community than if they were somewhere in the city of Ottawa. With the assault that happened a couple of years ago, that perception changed. So we've now come back to the point where members of our community think they're probably slightly more safe on campus than if they're off campus, which is a good change. We have with the help of steering committee, an enrollment-linked budget model where we automatically distribute 40% of any net new income to the teaching faculties. This has been very successful, actually. It's been probably one of our keys that have allowed us to continue to grow our undergraduate enrollment, that it provides something for an incentive for the teaching faculties actually to continue to increase their enrollment. So it's caused an alignment between the university's objectives and a teaching faculty's objective, which is positive. And we've spent a lot more time, or I've spent a lot more time in the last year talking to the community about our financial situation. Part of that's a little bit of what I did today. We had 4, you will probably all lived this through the media, if not more personally, 4 rounds of collective bargaining last year, which were all concluded. We opened 1 new building in the last year. We've started a journey with the National Quality Institute. So the National Quality Institute has a 4-step PEP program that allows sort of like a planned approach to improving quality. That's what the presentation is going to be about a little later this morning. So this is an initiative within finance and admin only. It's something that we will try that once we dip our toes in it for a couple of years, we'll try and move out to other parts of the university. So we'll talk more about that, but I'm very pleased that we've started the journey and we've achieved our first level certification. And we've had another phenomenally successful year with our varsity athletics program. The men's basketball team won a national championship. Women's basketball team made it to the national finals for the first time in their history, and both our water polo and Nordic ski team won provincial championships. And just a commercial for those in athletics, if any of you like sports, I'd encourage you next fall to go watch some of our varsity athletes, because it's some of the best quality sports you're ever going to get to watch. If you, I know, I guess we are on tape, but anyways, much better value than going to watch the Senators play, I have to say. Costs less to go to the game than it does to park there, so I'd encourage you to do it. Looking forward, we continue to have lots of capital activity. These were the buildings that will, well, the first one, the River Building, the Res 2011, that's now been called the Lennox and Addington Residence, the Commons Addition. We're going to have lots of construction activity around moving people into the space vacated by those that move into primarily the River Building. We're hopeful that we're going to hear from the provincial government of funding for the library project in the next few weeks. And we are probably going to have football coming back to the campus, which will require us to build another addition on athletics. So we'll continue to have lots of construction activity around the campus. The work that our Office of Quality Initiatives does in service excellence, lean benchmarking, innovation, and the healthy workplace is phenomenal, actually. So all of those initiatives will continue this year. The Healthy Workplace Initiative, it's an initiative where we have a committee being led by Ed Kane, but it's trying to introduce a healthy workplace across the institution. Once again, it's another National Quality Institute journey that we're embarking on. They have a four-step process, and so we've received level 1 certification. So this also will be a 4 or 5 year journey that we're embarked on. We also, one of our surveys indicated last year that our students' experience we're having in our residence could be better. So we have a strengths-based approach to actually looking at how we can improve the residents' experience, which will make some changes for this fall and then further changes for the fall of 2012. We do a lot of great things in sustainability. I think we need to do a better job of actually telling the story about the things we do, and also to do a better job of coordinating the work that we're doing, which I think of operational sustainability within the units in finance and admin, with the teaching that's going on within the classrooms and or the research that our researchers are doing. So is there a way we can have students actually in their projects more actively engaged in real life sustainability activities on campus? I think we need to do a better job of linking those. And the training that we do on campus for academic and administrative leaders. The training that we've done for academic leaders has always been a bit hit and miss. Actually, it's kind of depends on the interest level of the provost of the day. And on the administrative side, we have a lot of departmentally based leadership. We did have an LMPD program being essentially administered out of human resources, so we're going to refresh the LMPD program with something new. And with Peter Ricketts, we're actually going to look at refreshing the training that we're doing for academic managers as well. I think we have a pretty good relationship with our unions, but we seem to actually fall off the rails whenever we start collective bargaining. So we're going to embark on because we're in a little bit of a lull here around collective bargaining for a couple of years. We're going to actually start discussions with the union leadership of all our unions about, is there a way we could have a better relationship than we've had in the past. And as I said, I don't actually characterize the relationship as being bad, but it actually sure would that would be your impression of it if you were lived in downtown Ottawa and you watched what happened here last fall, right? And so we need to try and change that. I've talked about this already. I think we probably are going to have two new capital projects this year, the library and the fitness center. We are going to try once again to have a student referendum to see if the students will support that financially. That will be either in the fall or in the February. Improving linkages and transparency. This is actually probably fully in my job jar, but I think we do a much better job today than we did 10 years ago. 10 years ago. Easy for me to say. Of linking our strategic plan and the academic plan with our budget allocation, but I also think we need to look at whether we could do a better job of that. So we're going to be looking at how other universities do it over the next few months and see if we can improve it before the next budget cycle. CCS has undertaken to develop a new information technology strategic plan for the university. And lastly, ideas at Carleton. So this is the program where we've actually asked the campus community to submit ideas for improvement. We've had a lot of ideas. We've, I think, had 150. We've had 220 ideas submitted. It's actually a nice thing to do. We have a major project involved now in assessing all these ideas because we made a commitment to everyone that we will get back to them and say, well, it wasn't a great idea, so we're not going to do it, or we're already doing it, or that was a great idea, thank you, and we're going to implement it. But we need to get back to everybody that took the time to submit. So that's the process of evaluating those ideas that's going on now. So that ends my part, but just before we go to questions, I'm going to ask Cindy to come up and we'll do the NQI presentation. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to take this opportunity to call on one representative of each finance and admin department and stand on stage with Duncan to accept the National Quality Institute PEP Level 1 certification. So I'll start with Jason Anderson, who's Production Coordinator, Graphic Services, University Services. Joy Spy, Administrator, Office of Institutional Research and Planning and Quality Initiatives. Jacques Caron, Benefits Officer, Human Resources. Peter Cleland, Control Operator, Facility Management and Planning. Fran Craig, Welcome Center Administrator, what a nice title, Fran. Recreation and Athletics. Irene Emery, Supervisor, Business Office, Finance. Brenda Lacroix, Fund Administrator, Pension Fund Management. Michelle Mosley, Customer Service Rep, Parking Services, University Safety. Steve Sweeney, Supervisor, IT Service Delivery and Quality, CCS. And last but not least, Blanca Vallely, Administrative Assistant, Residence Life Services, Housing and Conference Services. So maybe we just get a few people in. Okay, so it's an honor for us to have Gary Sevigny with us today. Gary is the Chairman, Board of Governors, National Quality Institute, soon to be called Excellence Canada. On a personal note, I have had the pleasure of working with Gary for many years. His leadership, dedication, and passion to organizational excellence through quality and healthy workplace frameworks have inspired many organizations in many industries. As we came in today, he was just telling me he was at a camp leading young teens in leadership, so he continues that legacy. As chairman of the Board of Governors, he is leading the National Quality Institute into Transformation to Excellence Canada, helping improve organizational performance and recognizing excellence in Canada. It is my pleasure to introduce to you Gary Sevigny.
Good morning. It's a real pleasure to be here, and I have brought along a certificate that I'm going to make a presentation of in just a moment. But as I look at our cast here, it reminds me every fall we hold a major conference to present Canada Awards of Excellence. The stage is set similarly. A crowd out here, the recipients to receive the Canada Awards of Excellence. Canada Awards of Excellence are presented by the Governor-General of Canada. So the esteem that goes with that award is substantial. PEP Level 1, which we're presenting to you today, as Duncan has said, is step one of a four-step journey. And we like to call this a journey, and we're very pleased to see that you are calling it a journey as well. You don't turn on a switch to be not excellent to being excellent. It is a process. It is a process that needs measurement and mapping, and that's where NQI, now Excellence Canada, has excelled. We created an outline which companies could follow and improve their quality, improve their excellence, improve their processes. What existed before that? It's what exists in most of the companies today. A failure to become excellent because they only have an intention to become excellent. Intentions are the road to failure. Intentions must be followed through with a criteria, a map, a process. And that's where NQI has come in very, very successfully. And we're very pleased that Carleton's Finance Administration Division is leading the way in Canada. You are the first university to receive a PEP level award. I want to see you maintain that process and go to the Canada Awards of Excellence, hopefully 4 or 5 years from now, and have you be the first university on our stage receiving an award from the Governor-General of Canada. So on behalf of the National Quality Institute, now Excellence Canada, I present to Duncan and your team the PEP Level 1 Award for Excellence.
Okay, now it's your turn. Any skill testing questions about what I said or other things that are of interest to you? Which way is north? Oh, there's a good question, eh? Yeah. Which way would north be? I'd guess that way, eh? Yeah, maybe I guess that way, yeah. Yeah, if you're going to speak loudly, good, or there's a microphone, yeah.
I was pleased to see the announcement that we have a new interim university council and secretary. Could you say a few words about that and where you see that position being filled?
Well, one of the positions we've had a lot of turnover at Carleton in the last 10 years has been the position of university secretary. The person who last came to us about a year ago was Cheryl Foy, who actually had an experience as being the general legal counsel at Tundra Technologies. So when she came, her title was changed to being university secretary and general counsel. Bit of an aha moment for me. I think she's actually, I was a bit surprised. I'm not a big fan of lawyers, but I think Cheryl actually added a lot of value because prior to this, we had actually always relied on external people for legal advice. And so Cheryl is leaving us to go to a new opportunity in Toronto. And the new person who actually, I believe, started today, his name is Joanne Bray, and so she will be the university secretary and general counsel as well, and she has experience in other organizations, being as actually the general legal counsel as well. So I've actually not met her yet, but I ditched an opportunity to have lunch with her to go play with have lunch with the Wednesday hockey guys. So anyways, that was my decision, you know. So I'm sure I'll get to meet her though. Yeah. Anything else? Okay. Well, I'm not going to prolong this. Oh, maybe we might be working on a question. Yeah. Okay, we are. Okay.
Not a question, but just a statement to say that it's very nice to have these information sessions to let us know firsthand the changes that are taking place in the university, and it's quite comforting to get them firsthand, not as hearsay, and change is a much easier thing whenever you're involved and informed about what's going on firsthand. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. So if there are no more questions, I'd encourage you to have more food and follow my advice at the start of the session. If there's somebody in the room you don't know, go introduce yourselves to them, okay? Thank you very much for coming.